Hello everyone, and welcome to the Council of Elrond, a podcast which will give you a weekly injection of Lord of the Rings content. With this podcast, we want to open a conversation on all things Lord of the Rings, whether that be book or movie reviews, deep dives into individual characters, or even just talking about our favourite Lord of the Rings memes. We try not to take ourselves too seriously, and we're not Tolkien scholars or experts in fantasy. We're just two guys who love Lord of the Rings and love talking about it to anyone who'll listen. I'm Johnny Clark, and I'm here with my brother Dave, and we are your hosts, the Mellon Heads.
That's right, Johnny, and we're here to satisfy all your Tolkien needs and desires, and we would love to hear back from you all on any of the topics we discuss each week, so please get in touch with us on Twitter at Mellon_heads or on our Facebook page, the Mellon Heads. Remember, that's Mellon with 2 L's.
I don't take orders from orc maggots.
So welcome everyone to today's episode of the podcast. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at one of Tolkien's most important and influential characters he ever created. Forget Dumbledore, Merlin, Doctor Strange. We're going to have a chat about everyone's favourite wizard, the Big Daddy, Gandalf.
You shall not pass!
So Dave, let me start by asking you, who is Gandalf to you? And how would you describe him to a person who's never seen or read Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, very good. Big Daddy. Well, Gandalf is a wizard. He comes in 2 colours. He has a big grey bushy beard and a pointy bluish grey hat. But yeah, for me, Gandalf is like the guy that knows everything that's going on in Middle-earth. When we're watching the movies, especially the start of the Fellowship, the hobbits don't really know what's going on, who Sauron is, who the Nazgul are, what the ring is. But Gandalf is the one that really starts helping the audience along, blurting out some exposition. He's able to fill us in as the viewer along with Frodo and moves the plot along, really. Like every fantasy film, I think, needs some sort of narrator to help everyone know what's going on and set up the world, and Gandalf was kind of the Morgan Freeman to do that for us, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And from the get-go, from the very beginning, you're like, this is the wise and knowledgeable guy, that this is the guy that knows everything. Yeah. And he also, like, from the beginning, you're like, he's probably got some powers up his sleeve. He's probably got some tricks. And
and like you said with Dumbledore, he's kind of got this similar vibe to Dumbledore, where when you're watching Harry Potter, you kind of feel like, oh, this is the guy that I'm supposed to care about or trust in, and he knows everything that's happening. And
yeah, he's just got that like really like familiar feeling, like immediately. He just
exactly,
feels like your nice granddad or something.
Yeah.
Darkness took me.
So, what is a wizard as well? Like we all know Gandalf is a wizard, but is he a man? Is he an elf? Can wizardry be learned by many years of study and you end up with a master's degree in wizardry, or what? Or are you just born a wizard?
In general, or in Middle-earth, or
in Middle-earth, in Tolkien's world?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be an expert on it, but I know he's one of the Maiar, I think, and
yeah, he is a Maya and he's one of the Maiar.
Yeah, okay.
So the Maiar is plural and he is a Maya. Yeah.
I think I remember reading somewhere that he was basically sent from the god of Middle-earth, basically, which is, I can't remember the name, beginning with A.
Mm-hmm. Eru Ilúvatar.
Ilúvatar, yeah, or Ilúvatar. Yeah. He was sent by Ilúvatar, and I think he's kind of supposed to be a guide for the beings and races on Middle-earth, not really to get too much involved with them, but just to help them along their path. I think I remember reading before as well that he's not really supposed to challenge Sauron or the likes of, great evil.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's not supposed to use his power to kind of have any dominion over men or anything like that. Basically, he's exactly as you said. He was sent to Middle-earth in order to kind of guide and counsel the men and the elves, and in order to help them in any battles that they would have in the future against Sauron. So basically, wizards they're not men and they're not elves, but they are ancient spirits, as you said. They're called Maiar. And that's basically like he's an angel. He's a type of an angel. And
guardian angel.
He's like a guardian angel, and there's different levels of angels as well. So there were 5 angels that were chosen to go to Middle-earth because Sauron was basically being a real dick.
Yeah.
And then when they arrived in Middle-earth, they were given the name wizards. That's That's what they were called in Middle Earth. They also had to take on mortal bodies. So they took the form of old wise men. And these 5 wizards were Gandalf, Saruman the White, Radagast the Brown, and the 2 blue wizards. Now, obviously, Radagast didn't make it into the Lord of the Rings. He got into he got relegated to the Hobbit movies only. And we don't see the 2 blue wizards at all in Peter Jackson's movies. But a bit of trivia: when is the only mention of the blue wizards in the movies?
Ooh.
Do you know?
Oh, I don't know, but does Saruman mention it? I know he mentions Radagast. I can't remember if it's in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, where he says, I think it's in The Hobbit, where Saruman says something about the leaf slowing his mind, or the weed slowing his mind, or maybe he just says that about Gandalf. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure he says that in the Fellowship of the Ring to Gandalf, when he says that when Gandalf finally tells him that he's discovered the ring, that Frodo has it, and he says, it took you all these long years, and it was under my very nose. And he says, the love of the halfling's leaf has clearly slowed your mind.
Yeah, I remember that one all right, but I thought he might have said it about Radagast.
No, but
he definitely
kind of right. It is Saruman. It is Saruman that mentions the blue wizards, and the only mention of the blue wizards in all 3 of the movies, or in the Hobbits either as well, is basically when they go back to Orthanc at the beginning of the Return of the King. It's a deleted scene, actually. It's from the extended editions, where they show Saruman's death. So it's when Gandalf finally confronts Saruman at Orthanc in Isengard, and Saruman basically says to Gandalf, what do you want? Do you want the keys to Orthanc, or perhaps the keys to Barad-dûr itself, along with the crowns of the 7 kings and the rods of the 5 wizards?
Ah, yes.
And that's the only mention of the extra 2 wizards that we don't know anything about. And so we don't hear about them at all in the whole of the 3 movies, or in the Hobbit movies either.
Very cool. Yeah, that's really cool. I do remember that scene. Actually, that was just before his death. Spoilers. But yeah, exactly. Just when Theoden and Gandalf and all the boys they ride up to confront Saruman. Yeah, he has that really cool speech.
Exactly, and that's straight out of the book. We don't hear anything about those mysterious blue wizards in any of the books. You need to go into other writings from Tolkien to find any bit of information about those extra wizards.
Wow, that's what books are the blue wizards in, or how do we even know about them? I know from hearing ages ago, but probably from seeing memes as well. Yeah,
there's little bits and pieces from like Unfinished Tales, and it's actually a really strange area, because it's an area that's got a lot of contradiction in Tolkien's writing, because obviously a lot of the books that were released posthumously by, for example, by his son Christopher Tolkien, and a lot of the notes that Christopher used to put his father's work together was unfinished work, and Unfinished Tales being pretty obvious in that. So a lot of them were still ideas he was developing. So there's lots of strange kind of contradictory information about the Blue Wizards and about what they actually did. But we could make another whole podcast about that, so I don't think we should go into that right now.
Fool of a took.
Anyway, how old is Gandalf?
Oh man, Gandalf is at least 2,000 years old, I'd say. Played by a 2,000-year-old man as well, which really helps. Sir Ian McKellen, he's been around for a long, long time.
Yeah, that's a pretty accurate answer.
Okay.
So the answer would be that Gandalf as a wizard was over 2,000 years old, and approximately 2021 when he returned to the Undying Lands. But obviously Gandalf as 2021.
Yeah, so he was born the same time as Jesus. Coincidence?
Pretty much.
I think not.
Pretty much. So as we mentioned before, Gandalf is a Maya, and that's a spirit, and he was around before the creation of Middle-earth. So this means his spirit is thousands of years old, probably in the realm of 55,000 years old. But he's literally been alive since before time existed, so we can't give a correct answer. The best way that we can describe it is to say that he's so old that it's impossible to say how old he is. He's so old that years weren't invented until he was already an old man.
That sounds like the premise of a good "your mama so old" joke.
Right. Hotly debated topic. Gandalf versus Saruman. Who is the better wizard? Who is more powerful? You can give me what you think is a factual answer, or you can give me what's your opinion. If you were like saying, right, they're facing off.
Well, I think if you just watch the movies alone, you would think that Saruman is the more powerful wizard, especially in the Fellowship. They actually confront each other, and Saruman wins that, and as well he's the head wizard of the council, I believe. So that would just make you think that he is the most powerful one. Then after Gandalf dies and comes back as Gandalf the White, he seems almost all powerful, and he just seems like a resurrected wizard, which he is, I suppose. And I'd say he would be able to take on Saruman quite easily after that, which he kind of does, doesn't he, in the extended edition of the...
that's exactly correct. And the short answer is that Saruman the White was more powerful than Gandalf the Grey, but Gandalf the White was considerably more powerful than Saruman.
Okay.
So when all wizards arrived in Middle-earth, all 5 wizards, their task was to help men and elves resist the evil of Sauron. But as I said before, they were specifically forbidden to use their power to dominate or rule over people. At this point, Saruman was the leader, and he was given the rank or the title of White, and so he was the most powerful. And their colours also showed their rank as how powerful they were. However, after many, many years, Saruman rejected his role and started using his power for evil. And he changed his title to Saruman of Many Colours.
Yeah, I remember that from the book.
Exactly, yeah. And then Gandalf became the White, and then the most powerful wizard. And he basically just leveled up massively. He just became like a supercharged Gandalf.
Oh, all right. So when Saruman became like the multicolored coat of Saruman, does that mean he kind of leveled down? Because when Gandalf was Gandalf the White, does that make him better, or...
No, sorry, maybe I didn't explain that well. I just said that basically Saruman became the Saruman of Many Colours, and he basically vacated the role of the White. But Gandalf didn't become White initially. He became White later on when he got sent back after his death. But we'll discuss that in a few moments. But who is wiser between Saruman and Gandalf?
Yeah, definitely Gandalf. I'd say Saruman doesn't think that at all. Like, he thinks he's the wisest one. He thinks the wisest decision is to join Sauron and join forces, because like only a fool would
it would be wise.
It would be wise. Because he considers Gandalf to be a fool for not joining him and joining the dark side, really.
Yeah, he specifically calls him a fool. So that would be an easy answer to think. But in fact, Gandalf is the wisest.
I would think, though, that Saruman would probably be more learned, and he seems like he's book smart, and Gandalf is street smart in a little bit. But like, Gandalf kind of plays the old fool a little bit too well, and Saruman is kind of up in his tower studying his books and calling him a fool. And
sure, yeah, and as you say, street smart. Like, Gandalf never had a home in his over 2,000 years on Middle Earth. He was always traveling all 2,000 years. So Saruman got given his home in Isengard, and he kind of sort of stayed there. So definitely Gandalf was the more traveled out of the two of them. So maybe he could pick up some street smarts that way. But Gandalf was actually always considered the wiser of the two, and Saruman was always jealous of Gandalf because of this. And Saruman's jealousy of Gandalf stretches back thousands of years, maybe even to before they came to Middle-earth, when they were both Maiar. And
cool.
we also see the White Council. We see in the movies, we see the White Council in the Hobbit movies, where Saruman was named leader as the White Council as well. But in fact, Galadriel chose Gandalf to be the leader, and Gandalf didn't want this leadership, and he turned it down.
Bit of a Jon Snow.
Yeah, exactly. And Saruman took over that position then after Gandalf had already rejected it. Another thing as well was something that added to the jealousy and the frustration of Saruman was that when he learned that Gandalf had been given a ring of power by an elf called Círdan, because this elf considered Gandalf more worthy than Saruman as its bearer. And that was another thing that just like really irked Saruman for years. And there was a lot of things in the past that kind of kept other really powerful elves and powerful Valar were always kind of choosing Gandalf for certain things because they just saw that his nature was a bit better than Saruman's, and he was just a wiser being as well. So Saruman was a really smart guy, and he was actually incredibly learned in studying of rings, and he kind of studied the dark arts as well. So it's kind of like in Star Wars, he kind of like was studying the dark side and then eventually got corrupted by it. So yeah.
Or he's like your man, not Sirius Black from Harry Potter. What's the guy? Snape, who was the professor of the dark arts, and he was always kind of like a grey Jedi. We're kind of talking about loads of different fandoms here, but like he seems to be in between the good and the bad.
Yeah, but yeah, I suppose it's kind of like it's a similar story in all of them. Whoever studies the dark arts very often just has a kind of like slimy kind of appearance about them, and I just like it just obviously gets under their skin.
You have no power here, Gandalf.
Let's get into his powers. So his powers aren't as flashy as other wizards like Jafar from Aladdin, for example. But what can he do? What powers specifically does he have? And when do we see examples of them?
Gandalf from the movies. So
yeah. I mean, you can give me book stuff as well, but when do we actually see visually in the movies, especially? That's
I'm going to try and think of all the times. Obviously, the fight with the Balrog is when he kind of seems to set up a bit of a force field around himself, and he shouts "Flame of Udun," and I think his sword lights up red and fiery. So he seems to be able to get some sort of fiery power.
Flame of Udun!
Also, when they show that fight in the second movie, he's able to call on lightning, kind of like Thor. So that's a pretty cool power. And then he's able to use that power in his sword to strike the Balrog. Let me see. He's definitely got like other things. Like he can communicate with a moth. That's kind of magic, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, sure, definitely. It's not normal.
Yeah, it's definitely not normal. What else can he do? Gandalf. And then in the Hobbit movies, I suppose they had more of a budget on CGI, so they were able to give him so many new tricks and cool things. I suppose he does a lot of things with fire, doesn't he? In the Hobbit, he's able to light those cones on fire and throw them at the wargs.
Yeah, exactly, and it's pretty true to the book as well. That all happens, and I would say his main power is kind of like fire and light manipulation.
Yeah,
he just has a lot of control over fire.
Yeah, he's able to put on the light when they're in Moria, which is another cool thing. He's like an iPhone. He's got a flashlight and he's got
a lot of things with light. We can see him scaring away the Nazgul as well in the third movie when Faramir is charging back from Osgiliath.
Yes, that's right.
And so that's another thing. He has that big flashing light that kind of just scares away the Nazgul. So that's pretty good as well. But basically, in all of the movies and in all of the books, Gandalf always has this kind of association with fire and with light. And a lot of people contribute that or give some of that credit to his Ring of Power, which he has, which is called it's the Ring of Fire. And
Johnny Cash.
It's called the Ring of Fire, but we don't really know if it actually gives him any fire powers. A lot of other attributes that are given to that ring is kind of like quick thinking and decisiveness and things like that. Those are some kind of fire will always kind of try and find the most direct route to its destination. It won't kind of zigzag around. So, and that's kind of part of Gandalf's character and kind of part of his nature is to actually just kind of be very decisive in certain areas. But yeah, you've got most of his biggest powers. Is breaking the bridge of Khazad-dûm, of course, is a big one.
What is that power? Does he just have Hulk smash?
Well, he just has like massive control over emitting light and emitting power from his staff in that case. But a lot of his powers, you see him using his staff to do that, and he uses his staff kind of to as a conduit to kind of control his power.
Yeah, like a wand or
something. Power
something.
comes from inside him as well. Exactly, like a wand. But actually, when he breaks the bridge in Khazad-dûm, his staff shatters in that moment and is destroyed. And he still goes on and battles the Balrog for 10 days and without his staff. And he still, like, as you say, he commands lightning into his sword and he stabs the Balrog with his charged up sword. So he doesn't completely rely on his staff either. So he has these powers inside him.
When you said he doesn't completely rely on his staff, it just makes me think of he's like the boss and he doesn't have to completely rely on his staff. The boss man can make some big calls too.
Yeah, he can lay off all his
Exactly,
staff.
yeah.
There's no need for them. He can do it all.
There are few who can.
So just to quickly go through some of his other powers, telekinesis.
Ooh.
Of course, he can, when he's smoking with Bilbo, he blows out a nice ship.
Yeah.
And again, that's not what I would characterize as normal behavior. But in The Hobbit, he actually blows smoke rings and he changes the color and he kind of drags them around the room when they're first in Bilbo's house. And he also, when he meets Legolas and Gimli and Aragorn in the Two Towers, when they first think that he's Saruman, he disarms them all easily without touching them, and with he heats up Aragorn's sword. So, as a bit of trivia, can you tell me Gandalf's involvement in Elrond's spell on the river that swept away the Nazgul when they were trying to enter into Rivendell?
I cannot. I had no idea that Gandalf had any involvement at all, actually, in the spell.
Yeah, so in the movie, obviously, we see Arwen is the one who kind of starts chanting, and then suddenly the river comes thundering through and sweeps away the Nazgul, and basically what we think destroys them at that time. But in reality, that was a spell that Elrond put on on the river, and also Gandalf added a little
sprinkle,
little pinch of salt, a little bit of a little sprinkle, which was to make the water take the form of the horses.
Ah, cool.
So
yeah,
that was Gandalf's doing, and completely unnecessary. But he's just such a show.
Yeah.
He's such a showman, Gandalf.
completely unnecessary. Yeah. Elrond is like, how about we put this spell on the water to just like wash away any bad guys that are coming? And Gandalf's like, it's not quite complete. We must make them horses.
It needs some pizzazz.
Yeah. Sprinkle a little bit of horses in there, yeah.
Exactly. He obviously he's got the power of healing. He can heal Theoden both spiritually and physically.
Yeah, of course.
He's got opening and closing spells. Gandalf has an encyclopedic knowledge of spells and languages and uses various incantations in an unsuccessful attempt to open the doors of Moria. And he also mentions that he knows over 200 spells for opening doors.
I'm always curious about that scene. What is he saying? Like when when he comes to the doors of Moria and he's like, oh, it's quite simple. You see, you just speak the password and the doors will open. Like, what was his password? Was it just, password or guest 1, 2, 3? Like what was it? What were all these attempts? He was so confident. He's like, yeah, of course, just speak the password. And then Frodo gets
Gandalf won with a capital G.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, oh man, I can't remember. It was about 1,000 years ago when I created that password.
I've no idea, but like he's always like mumbling. I love an old Gandalf mumble as well. He obviously knows a hell of a lot of spells and a hell of a lot of languages. Moving on to other powers very quickly. So he's got a very commanding voice that he can use to control other people, and he even controls Saruman with his voice, where Saruman tries to turn away and to walk back into Orthanc at one stage, and Gandalf shouts at him and tells him, "Come back, Saruman." And Saruman is dragged back and has to turn around and face Gandalf again, and the rest of the Fellowship, or the rest of his party with Gandalf, are kind of shocked.
Oh man, that's so badass. When's that? What book is that?
That's in it's obviously not in the movies, but it's in this. It would have been in the same scene where they confront Saruman when he's locked in his tower.
Oh man, I really need to read those books again.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool scene. Other minor powers that I would say, well, his fireworks kind of could be described as being magical. He's got that big dragon firework, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And it's badass.
Yeah. Let's get another one.
He's actually got the power of blessing as well. He blesses Bill the pony, and he finds his way back to Rivendell, which is completely against the expectations of that character. And he also blesses Butterbur's beer. Butterbur being the barman.
The prancing pony.
The prancing pony, and his beer becomes known as the best in the land.
He must have blessed Guinness as well a long time ago as well.
There's some sort of a magical spell on a pint of Guinness, that's for sure.
What I do for a bit of Gandalf blessed Guinness.
And then the final one would be not maybe, I don't know if this is a real one or if he was kind of saying it jokingly, but he does hint that he's going to turn Sam into a toad at one stage.
I was literally thinking that.
So we don't know if he's possibly joking, but you never know. You never know with Gandalf. He's got a lot of skills. I wouldn't put it past him.
He turned me into a newt.
What got better?
Confound it all, Samwise Gamgee! Have you been eavesdropping?
What is Gandalf's relationship with the Eagles? Can he just contact them anytime he wants? What's that all about? Does he have them on like speed dial or something?
He might. Yeah, I don't know. We see in the movies he has the moth, which is his little messenger man. It seems like he's able to call on, like it doesn't seem like he's able to summon them at will. It seems like they're doing their own thing whenever they want, but he can ask a friendly moth passing by if he could run over to the Eagles and see what they're up to. Do they mind coming over and helping them out of a bit of bother? Because, you know, being trapped up there, the Eagles don't want to meddle too much in the goings on in Middle Earth, but they're probably going to come and rescue Gandalf when he needs it most. And I think that's when the Eagles are. That's whenever they're really summoned, is when they're needed most. So, and Gandalf would probably be the best person to communicate. Like, I don't think Frodo would be able to just grab some pigeon and start whispering to it and be like, "Go get me an eagle, my friend."
I could definitely get a nice visual image of Frodo just whispering things, whispering sweet nothings to pigeons,
grabbing Sam and just go get me an eagle. I think just Gandalf, he's Maya, isn't it? Yeah, I think that almost gives him a right to be able to communicate with the Eagles. I think they would listen to him other than anyone else.
I would listen to Gandalf in whatever situation. If he wanted to ride my back, I'm going to say that again. If you wanted me to carry him off the roof of Orthanc, I'd be very happy.
Hop on and jump off.
Hop on, Gandalf. Yeah, exactly. I will catch you. It's. I mean, it depends. In the movie, they do make it seem like Gandalf can just whisper to a mosquito and then the eagles come flying in. But unfortunately, that's not really the case. So we should think of the eagles kind of in the same way as we think of the Ents, that they're basically good, but they won't go out of their way to fight in battles of men because nobody is on their side, as Treebeard likes to put it. But Gandalf is basically he's on good terms with the Eagles because he's had dealings with them in the past, but he can't command them, and they won't go out of their way to help him if it's not in their interest, really. And what really happened in this situation with when they rescued him from Saruman's tower was that actually the Eagles were sent there by Radagast to deliver a message to Gandalf and to Saruman because they knew that they were together in Orthanc at the time. And Radagast is friends with all the birds, so he definitely had a better relationship with them. And he asked Gwaihir, who was the leader of all the Eagles, to deliver a message. And while the eagle was flying to Orthanc, he saw Gandalf imprisoned on the pinnacle of Orthanc, and so he decided to save him because they were basically friends, and it was convenient. So
yeah, he was on his way. Like, that's the only reason he took him.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, look, sure, hop on there. It's on my way anyway. Go on. But then also, while Gandalf was on the eagle, he told Gandalf that he was, quote, sent to bear tidings, not burdens. So he's not too happy about carrying Gandalf either. And he says that he's not going to carry him very far. So Gandalf just says, okay, just drop me off there in Rivendell. That'll be grand. And yeah, that's the way it worked.
Very good, yeah.
Gandalf
is in many ways like Santa Claus. He's old, he has long white hair and a big beard. He's friends with the elves and he has magical powers.
Oh, yeah.
And like Santa Claus, he has many different names in different parts of the world. Think of all the names we have for Santa Claus. Saint Nick, Kris Kringle, Papa Noel,
Father Christmas,
and many more. So I want to read a quote from Gandalf from the Two Towers. Many are my names in many countries. Mithrandir among the elves, Tharkun to the dwarves. Olorin I was in my youth, in the west, that is forgotten. In the south, Incanus. In the north, Gandalf. So it would make sense for a figure like Gandalf to have multiple names because different regions and cultures would have had different names for him, just like Santa.
Yeah, so true.
Tolkien brings the same level of history, language, and complexity to the world of Middle-earth by giving Gandalf numerous identities. And in this quote, he mentions Mithrandir, which is a name that we hear in the movies. But can you think of any other names or nicknames that he is called in the movies?
Ooh. Okay, let me see. We've got Mithrandir. Oh, yeah. There's when he goes to Theoden's. Is it Theoden's? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And someone calls him Gandalf Greyhaim.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember who. I think it is Theoden, and he goes, "You are not welcome here, Gandalf Greyheim." Is it? Am I mistaken?
I don't know. I don't know if Theoden calls him Greyheim. I don't think he does. It's actually Hama when they're
right.
he says we cannot let you before the king so armed, Gandalf Greyheim.
Oh, right. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, Theoden just goes Gandalf the Grey.
The Grey.
The Great? The Grey.
What are you saying, Theoden? Am I great or am I? So yeah, that's one of his names that's used in Rohan. Yeah, exactly. And actually, Greyheim is a modernization of an old English word which means grey coated.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
And it's used kind of as a surname for Gandalf.
Yeah, Gandalf Greyheim, and I think it is a cool surname for him as well.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But I remember when I first saw the movies, I remember just thinking, has that guy just made up a surname for Gandalf? Has he just been like, what's his name again? Is it Gandalf the Grey or something like that? It can't be the Grey. That's not a correct surname. It must be Greyheim. And I was like, maybe that dude just made up a name for Gandalf.
Yeah, did he just add Haim onto the end?
Yeah, so that's one of his official names that he has in Rohan. So I'll tell you that in that scene where he goes to Rohan, he's called a few names. He's called a few names by Theoden and a few names by Wormtongue.
Is this in the movies now?
Yep, and in the books.
Ooh. Let me think about this. I feel like he has another nickname that begins with O, but I don't remember what it is. And I can't remember if it's spoken. I honestly don't really remember from the scene who calls him another name or what that name is, but I'm sure you will enlighten me.
I'll give you a clue.
Okay, do.
Theoden calls him something which is basically like calling him Thunder Raven.
Oh, of course. Storm Crow.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So
damn,
Stormcrow.
Should have got that.
Stormcrow was another one that that's a nickname that he also had in Rohan as well, where it basically.
Let me guess. He that was his username for like one of his first emails or something. He was like Stormcrow 1992.
That was his password. That was what he was trying to mumble in Elvish when he was trying to get into into Moria. It's like, just say the password. What is it? Stormcrow 19.
Yeah. Greyheim 6969.
So Stormcrow actually basically means a bearer of bad news. So Gandalf kind of had a bit of a bad reputation sometimes especially in areas of Rohan. They thought he was always coming and he always had like some bad news to deliver. So they were like, oh God, not this lad again.
He delivered a lump of coal to the Rohirrim.
And another one that I'll give you in the same scene is when Grima Wormtongue calls him Lathspell. And that's, he says, Lathspell is ill news, and ill news is an ill guest. And basically, that was another name that Gandalf was given in Rohan, which also meant the bearer of ill news, or bad news, basically. So
I think Rohan themselves, like the whole country of Rohan, is just the bearer of bear news, or the bearer of bad news. The bad of bear news.
The big bad bear news.
There's a lot of bears in Rohan. Welcome to the new podcast, Big Bad Bear News.
So Rohan was like mad for giving him nicknames. They were like, right, what else can we call this lad? What else is a synonym for bad news? So they had loads of names for him. So just to name a couple of other nicknames, official nicknames that he had in the movies and in the books were the White Rider, which was a name given to him by Aragorn, the Grey Pilgrim, the Grey Wanderer, the Grey Fool, and can you tell me who calls him Old Greybeard?
Oh, is it Butterbur? I know we've mentioned him a lot, and he only has like 2 lines. But
No.
He seems to contribute an awful lot. Old Greybeard.
I'll tell you, it's definitely not a friend.
Dumbledore?
Okay, I'll give you one more clue.
Is it? One more clue.
It's from a deleted scene in the 3rd movie.
I'm going to have to ask the audience.
Well, what nemesis is in the 3rd movie that gets deleted, and he's not in any of the movies? He's only in the 3rd movie, and that scene gets deleted.
Ah, the mouth of Sauron.
Yeah, exactly. The mouth. The mouth calls him Old Greybeard.
Very good.
Yeah. So that's another one of his nicknames. But I think that's really cool that Tolkien basically gave him so many nicknames, because it makes sense as well. Somebody like as old as Gandalf, if he's been around for 2,000 years and he's like this kind of constant wanderer, he's always wandering from like place to place. So surely people are going to come up with different names for him. So those are just some of his nicknames, apart from his actual official names that he has for like Mithrandir and Olorin and all those types of things. But
Olorin, that was the one I couldn't remember.
Yeah, Olorin was his original name. That's his Maya name. That's his
okay.
That's, if you were saying who is he really, that's who he is. He's Olorin.
That's the answer to this question. So for this podcast is, who is Gandalf really?
Olorin. Yeah, exactly.
Now we can end.
Goodbye.
A wizard is never late.
So Gandalf is not an elf, but he also has one of the 3 elvish rings of power. What up? You know, how does he how did he get that ring?
Dude, where's my ring?
Exactly. So how did he get it? And do we see that in the movie? Does he wear that ring in the movie?
I think so. That's the ring we were referring to earlier, the ring of power, or the ring of power, the
ring of fire.
The ring of power, the ring of fire. The ring of power. Yeah, the ring of fire.
It burns.
I don't know where he got it. I imagine that somebody gifted it to him, because I can't imagine Gandalf killed an elf and took the ring. So I'm sure he was probably gifted the ring. He was gifted the ring by an elf called Círdan, and when he first arrived in Middle Earth, I nearly said Middle Elf, in Middle Earth, and this elf had the power of foresight, and he could see further than anyone else in Middle Earth, and he could see Gandalf's true nature and purpose, and he gave Gandalf the ring, and basically told him that it would help him in all of his efforts. If you ever need to start a fire, here you go.
Exactly. So
you come in handy.
I have a quote here from Círdan when he gives him the ring. He says, "Take this ring, master, for your labors will be heavy, but it will support you in the weariness that you have taken upon yourself. For this is the ring of fire, and with it you may rekindle hearts in a world that grows chill." So that's that's nice of him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the elven rings generally prevented decay, and they promoted growth and strength. And Gandalf had an innate ability to encourage and embolden others, and to persuade them to act for good. And we saw this several times. The Ring of Fire gave Gandalf strength and amplified his abilities, basically. And one power of the ring was kind of to confer an affinity for fire upon its wearer. And we know Gandalf's key element throughout was fire, and so this part of his nature would have been enhanced. And
cool.
So the other question was, do we see him wearing it in the movie?
When they talk about the 3 rings at the very start of the movie, I'm pretty sure that's they show 3 elves wearing the ring. So maybe Círdan, that's who they're showing in that scene. I'm sure it's there.
It wouldn't have been Círdan there, that because the ring got passed down through a few different people through the ages.
Okay.
And eventually made its way to Círdan, and he had it for about 1,000 years, and then it came to Gandalf. But yeah, so it's not there.
I'm sure it's on his finger there, isn't it?
It's not, because one of the things about one of the powers of the rings is kind of to hide. Kind of gives the wearer the ability to be really kind of sneaky and to kind of like slip out of sight whenever they want. And also, it can very often people can't see the rings on the bearer's fingers. So, for example, when Galadriel wore her ring, nobody really noticed it. If you read the books, the only person that noticed Galadriel's ring in the books was Frodo, and that was because he too was a ring bearer. And so he kind of nobody else sort of it's almost like it was invisible to everybody else's eyes. And the only time that we see Gandalf wearing it in the movies is when they're on the shores of the Grey Haven, and they're about to set sail, and he's chatting to the hobbits, and you can see his ring on his finger, and it's a ring with like a red gemstone in the middle of it, and that's his ring of power.
So when they were like actually making the movies, that's the only time Ian McKellen wore the ring. Is that what you're saying?
That's the only time he wore the ring, but that's in keeping with the books, because in the books he kind of kept it hidden all these years, and then basically when all the evil was destroyed and he was going back, he basically didn't hide it anymore, and it says he wore it openly.
Oh, that's why I love these movies. They're so detailed.
I know,
with things
yeah.
like that. It's like, oh, did you notice that he didn't wear the ring throughout the whole movies? And you're like, that's a mistake. And you're like, no, it's because it's a secret.
Nah.
Keep it safe.
And then, anytime I hear these little like nuggets like that, I'm always like, I guess I'll just have to watch all 3 movies again just to confirm. I need to like do my research.
You get to the third one and you miss it, and you're like, better start again.
Don't touch me, Frodo.
So how does Gandalf come back from the dead? Like, does he have a cheat code or what?
Yeah, he's straight out of all thought and time. I think I remember reading somewhere that he was the only person to ever be brought back from the dead, basically, apart from all the ghosts and all the zombies and all the dead things in Lord of the Rings. No, but I think he was the only one that was ever sent back to Middle Earth by Ilúvatar.
That's right, yeah. It was Ilúvatar that sent him back. Yeah, well done.
Complete guess.
It makes sense. If some power is going to send it back, it's got to be the Ilúvatar, who is the god, the main guy. So we know that Gandalf, when he arrives in Middle Earth, he's given a mortal body. So he can bleed and he can even die. But he really is a powerful spirit like an angel. So when he died, his spirit left his body and returned to the Undying Lands, where the god of Middle Earth, which is Ilúvatar, sent him back to complete his task. And he was the only one of the 5 wizards who remained true to his original task. So he was really in Ilúvatar's good books.
Until my task is done.
And he gets sent back and wakes up on the top of a mountain, completely in the nude, like an absolute boss.
Butt ass naked. Yeah, he pulls a bit of a Walter White there and claims he had an episode.
He's in the nutty, yeah. They're like, oh no, we've got senile Gandalf just wandering around naked now. What's going on?
You didn't put that down as a special power that he's able to survive the cold in his bare ass.
Exactly, yeah. He didn't get frostbite on his balls or anything like that. So that's pretty good.
On his staff.
So that's actually another time where he gets picked up and saved by Gwaihir, the eagle, the same eagle that saves him from Saruman. He basically comes and picks Gandalf up and takes him to Lothlorien to hang out with Galadriel, and she gives him all his white clothes.
Class.
Yeah, so
hanging out with all the boys
again.
Also, yeah, that's right. He doesn't just. Does he choose the white clothes, or does he?
Well, he gets given them by Galadriel, but like he gets sent back with.
But is she the one to confirm that he's leveled up? And she's like, right, now I have something special for you. This cloak, it's got an armor of 50 plus.
yeah.
The staff,
you've got
20 XP,
yeah, 120 resistance, and
yeah.
So he's got a new speed and agility.
Yeah.
Well, no, he gets the white clothes because he's now officially Gandalf the White, and he's allowed to wear this clothes. I don't know where. Maybe the elves in Lothlorien like make those clothes for him. I'm not sure, but he gets given them there in Lothlorien anyway. And yeah. So he's then
cool,
Gandalf with a vengeance.
Yeah.
I am Gandalf the White.
Gandalf the Grey versus Gandalf the White. What are the main differences?
Well, personally, the main difference is that Gandalf the Grey is 10 times cooler. But
he is cooler.
yeah, Gandalf the White he's way more powerful, and even when he goes to Theoden, and Theoden is in his little comatose state, and he starts laughing at him, and he's like, "You have no power here, Gandalf the Grey," and then suddenly he just like unleashes his white clothes, and then it's almost as if just because of a color change,
exactly,
a wardrobe change, like Lady Gaga, he's able to suddenly exercise.
Theoden's like, "Oh my god, you look fabulous."
Yeah, it just like it takes years off Theoden's life looking at Gandalf the White.
Yeah. Also, quick question: Who does Gimli prefer, Gandalf the Grey or Gandalf the White?
Is there an actual answer?
No, I'm just making this up off the top of my head. No, I think,
yeah, because I think
because I've just remembered a comment from Gimli in the movies where he goes, "Oh, this new Gandalf's grumpier than the last."
Yeah, no, Gimli. I don't know. Gimli's a grumpy boy. He doesn't really seem to like too many people. Maybe if Gandalf gave him 3 hairs from his white head, it would make him a little happier. But
so basically Gandalf the White is like just way stronger than Gandalf the Grey. So So as I said before, Gandalf the Grey, when he came to Middle-earth, he took on a physical body which requires sleep and food and all the requirements of a regular person. He also has like distant memories of his life before being a wizard in Middle-earth, but they're not clear and they're far away memories. And if you remember the quote that I read before when he talks about his names, he says, "Oloran I was in my youth in the West, that is forgotten." And he's talking about how he can't really remember. He can't really remember his youth. He can't really remember being a Maya. He can't remember being that spirit. Really, it's like a foggy memory. And then
Too much weed.
yeah, too much of the Hobbit's leaf.
Slowed his mind.
So when he dies, his spirit returns to the Undying Lands, and he gets given a new deity as Gandalf the White, and he's also given permission to use his full strength as a Maya, which was his angel spirit, which before was limited. So as I said, he had some kind of distant memories of being a Maya before when he was Gandalf the Grey, and he had like abilities and he had his power, but they were limited powers. He couldn't access all of his powers. So it's kind of cool. He just kind of gets access to his powers. So then
He just unlocks some more special abilities, basically.
Exactly. And then it's almost like the opposite when he returns as Gandalf the White. Now he barely remembers his life as Gandalf the Grey, and he remembers more of his spirit life and the power that he had then. And also because of this, now he doesn't doubt his power or his ability, which Gandalf the Grey would have.
Yeah.
He's wiser, he has more courage, and he commands more authority than before.
He doesn't mumble as much either.
No, he's just really decisive, and it's like he's got that strong memory of just being such a powerful being, and now he doesn't have any doubt in himself, where Gandalf the Grey was kind of like a little bit more indecisive. So Gandalf the White, he's a lot more proactive and a lot more decisive, and those are just other things as well as gaining all of his new powers. He breaks Saruman's staff easily just by speaking, whereas before Gandalf the Grey was easily bested by Saruman.
Yeah, true.
But that's cool, isn't it?
Saruman, your staff is broken.
Yeah, I know, it's very cool. I never really thought about how much more powerful he becomes and how much more assured in himself he is. And before he definitely seemed like a wanderer and he was part of the Fellowship. Now he's kind of almost literally standing beside them, like helping them along. Like, come on, Aragorn, you're better than this. You know what to do. He's much more of a guide.
Yeah, he's just got much more like attributes of a leader when he comes back, and he's just he's like, as I said, he's not afraid to go straight into King Theoden and like basically blast him with his white light and get
blast him with his white light,
blast with his new white power.
White power.
So I think that's really cool that now that he's come back and he has all of these clear memories of being this really powerful spirit, this Maya, that now he's just really decisive and really he just doesn't doubt himself at all, and he knows how powerful he is. Whereas Gandalf the Grey was powerful and knew he was powerful, but he just didn't really have all the access to those powers, and he was like kind of limited by some of, as I said, the rules that the god Iluvatar had put on him when he arrived. So when he came back, the rules were, it's like the rule book was just thrown away, and he was like, do what you want.
Yeah, perfect timing as well. Like, he was sent back just before the final stages of the War of the Ring, I suppose.
Exactly. So also it's kind of an interesting point that he probably could have fled from the Balrog in Moria. He probably could have got away if he wanted to, but he decided to stand and face him to save the Fellowship, and he was like, he made that decision. He knew that they'd all get away if he stayed, and he fought.
He sacrificed himself, basically.
And he basically sacrificed himself. He knew it was very possible that he could die, and in the end, he did die. And so basically, if he hadn't sacrificed himself, he never would have died. He never would have become Gandalf the White, and he never would have had the power to actually succeed in his task. So
it's a bit like destiny, really. A bit like Jon Snow had to come back, had to be brought back.
Yeah.
And it was for a reason, really.
Exactly. So it's cool. It's again just another bit of masterful writing by Tolkien.
Yeah.
Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks.
So I want to kind of go slightly off Gandalf now, and I want to focus on Ciri and McKellen, and I would just want to see if you know what his original relationship with the Lord of the Rings was. Did he know the Lord of the Rings well, and did he jump at the opportunity to play Gandalf? Or was he just like not really bothered?
Well, I don't really know. I know about Christopher Lee that he really wanted to play Gandalf. Yeah, he was dying to play him. I don't know. Did Peter Jackson approach Sir Ian McKellen and say, you are our first choice? Or I'm not sure.
Well, no, you're right as well about Christopher Lee, that he was a long time Tolkien fan. He actually met J.R.R. Tolkien. He was the only person involved.
The only
with Lord of
cast
the Rings,
member, yeah.
To meet Tolkien when he was alive. And he was just a massive Tolkien nerd.
He would read the books every single year,
yeah,
which is incredible.
What a guy. And yeah, all of his life he wanted to be Gandalf, and in the end they gave him the role of Saruman, but and he was so good as Saruman.
I think that also contributed to his role of playing Saruman, where he was just bitter about Gandalf as well. Like you said before, where he's jealous of Gandalf.
When Saruman was jealous of Gandalf, yeah, maybe Christopher Lee was jealous of Sir Ian McKellen.
It really helps. It's like, oh, you want to play Gandalf?
Wait,
he'd be a perfect Saruman.
Is Christopher Lee a knight? Was he Sir Christopher Lee, or was he just Christopher Lee?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, because I was going to say maybe if he
Christopher.
wasn't, that would be another reason to be jealous of Sir Ian McKellen. He just so he levels of jealousy. I don't know. I think it might be just Christopher Lee. I think it might be just Christopher Lee. Anyway,
he was a Jedi Knight.
He was a Jedi Knight. Exactly.
He was.
He was Count Christopher Lee.
He was Count Dooku, and he was also Count Dracula. Oh my god, there's so many layers to this. You know, he played Count Dracula.
I count 2 counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I count 2 counts.
So I heard a really interesting anecdote that there's a video on YouTube of Ian McKellen talking about how he got the role of Gandalf, and I thought it was really cool, so I wanted to share it with you. So he said that he wasn't.
Thank you.
He said he wasn't familiar at all with Lord of the Rings when he was offered the role. He said he didn't know anything about it really, and he very nearly didn't accept it for a couple of reasons. And first reason was he was offered a part in Mission Impossible 2 by Tom Cruise, and his agent was
play who? Tom Cruise
to play a part that actually in the end Anthony Hopkins played, but his agent said to him, "Oh, you can't pass this up. This is you're working with Tom Cruise. This is an opportunity of a lifetime." And of course, Ian McKellen wasn't massively known at the time. He wasn't a household name in any way. So that would have been, it seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime. But then Tom Cruise was being a bit secretive about the movie plot, and he would only show him one part of one scene. And Sir Ian McKellen was just like, I can't be part of your movie if I don't even know what it's about. And basically he just turned it down. And Mission Impossible 2 got delayed, and eventually it got delayed so much, and he would have been contracted to that movie, so he would have missed out on filming both X-Men and The Lord of the Rings if he had accepted that role.
Oh man!
So can you imagine that? That's But also, that's not even where the story ends, because he was also contracted to X-Men before Lord of the Rings, and filming got pushed back on X-Men a few times as well. And he had accepted that before Lord of the Rings, so he had to go with his first contract, and he had to call up Peter Jackson and tell him that he could no longer be Gandalf, and due to his contractual obligations. And Peter Jackson was like gutted, and he was like, "Oh well, look, we're gonna keep that spot open for you just in case, you never know." And then, as a total coincidence, that same night after the phone call, Ian McKellen went out to a restaurant in London for dinner. And he was approached in the restaurant by Bob Shea, who was the founder of New Line Cinema. And Bob Shea said to him, "Oh, I'm really looking forward to working with you." And Sir Ian said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I have to do X-Men, and it's been delayed, and I can't play Gandalf anymore." And Bob Shea was like, "Look, leave it with me. I'll sort it out." And so he got in touch with with the crew, and basically they held off on filming Gandalf's scenes until it fit his schedule. And so there were a lot of things that almost stopped Sir Ian McKellen from becoming Gandalf, but thankfully in the end
it was meant to be.
The universe, or Eru Ilúvatar, wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah. So Bob Shea was sent by an eagle to save Gandalf. Thank God for Bob Shea. Where is he now?
Yeah.
Probably getting a knighthood. Sir Bob Shea. Oh man, that's crazy. I also heard another thing about Gandalf, that it was almost actually I think it was Sean Connery that was the first choice by Peter Jackson for Gandalf, and Sean Connery just straight up was like, this makes no sense at all. Actually, no, that's more Gimli, but yeah, no, he didn't understand Lord of the Rings, and
yeah, that's right, that's true. He actually he
what did he opt for instead? Robin Hood?
No,
Prince of Thieves.
Do you know what he went for? He ended up instead of that, he chose to be in
Entrapment.
the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh, that's right.
Which is
League of Extraordinary.
Can you imagine? It's rubbish. Oh, and also, because I read this recently that he was offered. Oh my God, this is. Can you imagine this? So Sean Connery, when he was the first choice, and when Peter Jackson asked him to be in the movie, he offered him something like, I can't remember, maybe like 5 million straight up or something like that. But he offered him 25% of all of the gross of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And Lord of the Rings, like I can't remember what exact number it got to, but I think it grossed something like 6 billion or something like that worldwide. So
1 billion trillion American dollars.
So like that's a bit of a bad choice in Connery's career, but he was he did all right for himself with his James Bonds and all that. So I won't feel too sorry for him.
Yeah, no, it would have been so weird to have Gandalf throw yourself in there with your riddles and your stupidity. I can't imagine Sean Connery doing the role. It'd be awful.
Yeah.
All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
All right, guys, that's all from us this week on the Council of Elrond. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you learned a thing or two about this fantastic character and had a bit of a laugh along the way as well. Please let us know if we missed out on anything that you would have included, or if you want to correct us on a mistake that we undoubtedly made. Or if you just want to get in touch to say hi or suggest a topic for us to discuss in a further episode of the podcast. We'd really love to hear from you on Twitter at Mellon_Heads or over on our Facebook page, the Mellon Heads. Remember, that's Mellon with 2 L's. Well, that just about does it for this week, so I'll leave you now with some wise words from our good friend Treebeard. And remember, as with all things in life, don't be hasty.